The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
Your Detroit Lions want rules changes. I just don't know if they're going to get them.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast.
And the Lions want to change the playoff seeding and have put in so that the wild card teams with a better record get the higher seed over the division winner. We saw this play out last year. Lions and Vikings were both 14-2. They were getting ready to face off in week 18. And if the Lions would have lost that game, and look, the Lions blew out the Vikings that day, and they beat up on Sam Darnold. But that forced Minnesota to have to go on the road to play in the playoffs as what were the Vikings? The 5 seed, and the Lions were the 1 seed, of course. The Lions' proposal is that automatic bids for division winner, there are still going to be automatic bids for division winners, but the order of seeding is completely determined by record. So winning the division no longer automatically means that you'll host a playoff game. So the Vikings, under the Lions rules that the Lions want for this year, if that happens again, the Vikings would host, was it Tampa Bay last year? The Vikings would have hosted Tampa rather than having to play in Tampa. Was it Minnesota, Tampa Bay? Or no, it was Minnesota and the Rams. The Rams were 4. The Vikings were 5. The Vikings had to go to the Rams and all hell broke loose. They lost. Played poorly, etc. All right. So the Lions would like to see wild card teams getting a higher seed than the division winners, despite the record. Again, Vikings won 14 games this past season and had to go on the road to play a playoff game. And had to face a Rams team that won 9 games, 10 games, whatever it was. All right. So the Lions are proposing one of 3 rule changes. That's the first major one, this playoff seeding fix. See if that goes through. The other one the Lions are proposing is players placed on the injured reserve list before a cutdown date do not count against the team's 90-man roster limit. So currently right now, any player who's placed on IR before the cutdown date counts against the 90-man roster. And these players are not eligible to come back from IR. A lot of them are out for the year. So the Lions are proposing that they do not occupy a roster spot once placed on injured reserve. Not a bad rule. Probably should be changed. We'll see if the owners and competition committee agree with all of that. Here's the big one. And this one has everything to do with how the Lions play. The Lions want to eliminate automatic first downs on illegal contact penalties. Illegal contact number whatever, 21, number 1, number 15. And also eliminate automatic first downs on defensive holding. So again, if it's 3rd and 15 and there's a defensive holding call on the Lions, which is a 5-yard penalty, it would still be 3rd and 10 and they would replay the down. Again, currently these 5-yard infractions carry a stipulation that the offense be awarded an automatic first down. This can prove costly on 3rd and long situations despite the relatively minor infraction. Reading that off of our friends at Pride of Detroit. Here's what's interesting about this whole thing. So the Lions are against automatic first downs for illegal contact by a cornerback or a defensive back and defensive holding. Mostly it is corners that are the major infractors here, if that's even a word. And this was very, very interesting that was brought up online today. And I have the stat and I have to find it right here. Here we go. Warren Sharp from Sharp Football brought this up today. Since 2023, the last 2 seasons of NFL football, the Detroit Lions have the most holding penalties and illegal contact penalties in the league. They've got 26. Second most are the Jets with 23 and the Titans with 23. So If you have watched some of the film of DJ Reed, whom the Lions have just signed to be their top cornerback, if we all watched Terrion Arnold for the first few weeks of this season, we know, and watch DJ Reed's tape, he's grabby. DJ Reed grabs. Good player, getting 18 or 16 million a year. He's going to fill in nicely. Love the signing, but he's grabby. Terrion Arnold, we know, likes to hand fight. He's grabby too. So the Lions play tough, bump and run, man-to-man coverage. They grab, they hold at times. And look, officials, especially side judges and back judges, are not going to call it every single play. The Lions are physical. That's how they play. They grab a little bit. Hence, they've had the most holding and illegal contact penalties of any team in the league. So they're proposing that, hey, if we get busted for more of these, we don't want, we think a 3rd and 20 defensive holding should just be replay the down, 3rd and 15, not automatic first down on a 5-yard penalty. And the Lions are proposing that. I think what's going to happen is that they're going to lose this one. I think they have a better chance of winning the reseeding with the wild cards if they have a better record than this one. I think that the league is not going to give the Lions what they want here. Look, the Packers put in for the tush push to be banned, which is ridiculous. If you don't like it, stop it. But yes, illegal contact the last 2 years, the Lions have had the most, hands down. And that's the way they play. And I like the fact that the Lions are trying to fix the rule. In their mind, they want it fixed. Yeah, if it's pass interference down the field, 35-yard penalty, spot of the foul, I love that. I wish college would do that. Right? Teams going for the home run ball and a guy gets tackled, a receiver gets tackled. In college, it's a 15-yard penalty. It should be a spot of the foul penalty, an automatic first down. But illegal contact, a little grab, a little hold, Lions say, if it's a 5-yard penalty, why should it be an automatic first down? And they want it changed. So there you have it with that one. Today, the Lions, according to Adam Schefter, have given another 1-year contract to Al-Qadin Muhammad, the edge rusher who got a lot of playing time last year due to all the injuries that the Lions had along and across the defensive line. Muhammad had 11 tackles, 3 sacks, 5 quarterback hits, and even started a few games for the team. And I thought was a guy, when we went through the list a couple of weeks ago of the players that I wanted the Lions to re-sign, why wouldn't you bring back Al-Qadin Muhammad, who, of course, was in New Orleans when Dan Campbell was there years ago. Solid veteran, good player. Going to be cheap. Probably not going to be a guy that's going to start for a lot of teams. But at least would get an opportunity with the Lions to, again, be a edge rusher that could make the team. And if not, you stash him back on the practice squad. But a depth piece that has shown, at least in some limited time, and again, 3 sacks, that occasionally he can get to the quarterback. So Muhammad is back. The Lions are bringing back just about everybody. And it's a lot of cheap deals, and it's a lot of guys that, look, if Al-Qadin Muhammad has to play a lot next year and racks up sacks and gets a bunch of quarterback pressures and hurries, he's going to get a bigger contract somewhere else. You're paying these guys and putting them on 1-year deals so they can prove themselves to get larger contracts and likely leave the organization after the season. There's only so many guys you can keep, as we've talked about. I know there's been a lot of discussion. I was listening yesterday to, Valeni and Rico talking on the ticket about, we got to go get Trey Hendrickson, and screw the money. No, if you trade for Trey Hendrickson, which sign me up, I would love the Lions to trade for Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals. But again, he's going to command $30 million a year on his next deal. And so is Aiden Hutchinson. Are you going to pay 2 players along the defensive line $65 million per season and re-up Kirby Joseph and have to sign DJ Reader's replacement next year after he leaves and figure out a way to re-up Jamison Williams too, whose 5th-year number, if you pick up his 5th-year option, is likely around $20 million? You can't keep everybody. The Bengals are keeping Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. They are not keeping Trey Hendrickson. Now, they've made some more mistakes. The Bengals front office is not the Lions front office, but you see my point here. But getting Al-Qadim Muhammad will not change anything about how the Lions approach the rest of free agency. If there's some guys that end up, look, Zadarius Smith could be a guy they bring back on a lot less money. That won't have any effect on Al-Qadim Muhammad. If Muhammad's not good enough, they'll cut him. He's on a 1-year deal, probably making very little money. But keeping your own, having a guy back that is a good, solid depth piece, and I've said depth piece 50 times, but you know what I mean. I don't dislike the signing. But if Al-Qadim Muhammad is starting every game and is your best edge rusher opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, we have a problem. You've got to draft somebody else. The Lions have Marcus Davenport back. They've got Muhammad back. They've got Pascal back, but they still have to do better. And at 28 or 60 or whatever, if there's a player there, we talked about James Pierce yesterday. We've talked about Shamar Sanders. We've talked about Mike Green. We've talked about Jihad Campbell. We've talked about the kid from Boston College, Donovan Ezerique, all these guys. Somebody has to be taken. The Lions have got to draft at some point somebody that comes off the edge and can get to the quarterback. That's where you win. You win up front. So I think it's certainly interesting. Speaking of the draft, Jihad Campbell, we talked about 2 days ago, Monday. And the fact that Dave Burkett in his mock draft at the Free Press, mock draft 2.0, did have the Lions selecting Campbell at number 28. We know Brad Holmes likes to draft Alabama players. Terrion Arnold, Jahmyr Gibbs. Oh my God, I almost called him Jahmyr Gibbs. What? Oh my gosh, no. I just pulled a, who was it on Fox that called him Jahmyr Gibbs this year? Oh, is it Strahan or somebody? Can't believe I just did that. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jamison Williams, Terrion Arnold, Brian Branch. Plenty of Alabama players have been on Brad Holmes's radar. Jihad Campbell is a really, really athletic. He's a killer out there at linebacker, can play everywhere. We talked about it Monday. Well, it came out today that Campbell admitted, Jihad did, that he had tore his labrum and decided to have a left shoulder surgery right after the combine. He hopes to be ready for the start of the season. I don't think this will affect his draft status at all. This is not a leg injury. This isn't an ACL. This isn't an MCL, PCL, any of that. What is interesting is Jordan Reed from ESPN remarked on this report today and said he still has Campbell at number 14 on his big board, 14th best player on his board. And Booger McFarland also on Twitter today added there's no way that Jihad Campbell would get past Tampa Bay at number 19. Now, Booger played for the Bucs, knows his stuff, certainly has covered the SEC for ESPN and ABC. So while Dave had him in his mock fall all the way down to 28, at least according to Booger McFarland, there would be no way in his mind that Campbell would fall past Tampa Bay at number 19. And remember, Tampa Bay for years, whether it's been Levante David or any of the guys they've had at linebacker, love the athletes and those types of players at linebacker. Bucks have had great, like Derek Brooks, they've had great linebackers in and out of that program going back to Tony Dungy, John Gruden, and now Todd Bowles. So yes, Jihad Campbell would fit the narrative of Tampa Bay. The question for the Lions is, would he somehow fall to 28 and would Detroit grab him? But I think Dave was onto something the other day saying, if he's at 28, he's clearly going to be the best player on the board left. And Brad Holmes, as we know, has drafted the best player available no matter the situation. But torn labrum in the left shoulder, would that be a red flag for the Lions? I don't know, because it's not, let's say he wouldn't be ready until week 3 or week 4 or week 5. That could be the scenario with Aleem McNeil as well. But if they love the player, know they can get 5 years out of him, they would wait for him, in my opinion.
March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets. When your first $5 bet wins, that's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. You've got to have those 5-12 upsets all ready. Those 4-13 upsets, maybe even a a 314 in there just to get a little spice? Are we having fun yet? And with FanDuel, they make it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. The tournament games happen almost every day, so there's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. Looking at the first four, there's a matchup of perennial tournament teams in the first four. The Xavier Musketeers face the Texas Longhorns. Winner will get Illinois next. FanDuel likes the Muskies by 3.5 in this one. Do people say that? Do they call them that? So they do now. Visit FanDuel.com and get on the college hoops action all tournament long.
Out of nowhere on Tuesday, the Chargers decided to drop some big news, announcing that they likely just upgraded at the center position, signing Andre James.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers.
Well, just like lightning, the Chargers struck unexpectedly and added another offensive lineman, and his name is Andre James. He plays center, and I'm very excited about that because that adds some really true competition to the interior of the offensive line. So that begs the question, what does that mean for Bradley Bozeman? Well, thankfully, Bradley Bozeman has some positional flex that allows the Chargers to have some options there. And of course, the offensive line starting to come together. Seems like they're starting to build some depth. So what is next for the offensive line?
Yeah, because as we've seen, there could always be more, and you can't really write them off on signing anyone at this point, and you still have 10 upcoming draft picks. But today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. David, the Chargers likely just signed their starting center, Andre James, and this puts a little bit more clarity about how the Chargers feel about the center position at the very least. And I think this is a move at a high end that could be a steal for the Chargers, depending on what this deal ends up being, and also someone that really could bounce back and do what the Chargers have done so much recently with these short-term deals, finding bounce back candidates and having them raise their value with the Chargers, and also addressing one of the biggest needs. So we saw the Chargers re-sign Bradley Bozeman. We weren't sure really what that plan was going to be. And this is a guy that could be a really big improvement over the 2024 version of Bradley Bozeman that we saw.
100%. I mean, Andre James is a player I think you can get really excited about. I mean, yeah, last year he had a down year, but that's definitely not the exception, or that's not the rule. That's the exception. When you look at his stats and what he's been able to do, I mean, Andre James, 2 sacks or fewer allowed in 3 of the 4 seasons. Compared to, Bradley Bozeman, just the last 2 seasons, it's 12 sacks and 59 pressures allowed. So this guy is a much more well-rounded center, especially when it comes to pass protection. He excels in pass protection, and he's used to and has excelled in a scheme that the Chargers currently like to run with, which is that gap blocking scheme.
Yeah, he does seem like a better fit for that because when he was at his best season was 2023, right, when he ended up allowing just 17 pressures on 448 pass blocking snaps. He had a really good season, and it wasn't just that in 2023. It was the well-rounded part of his game. He was 11th in pass blocking grade and 11th in run blocking grade, and also graded out as a top 10 center, the 9th-ranked center out of anyone that had at least 100 snaps in 2023. That's where the top end is. You know that he can play at a high level. He didn't last year. Him and Bradley Bozeman were comparable at the very least last year. But even if he played like the 2024 version, as a pass protector, you're getting someone with a much higher floor. And when you have the season end the way it did last year, the pass protection had to be addressed because it wasn't, it was that and the run blocking, of course, that all, comes together. But at the same time, it was so atrocious that we knew that Justin Herbert never had a chance in that game. And this is a move to upgrade that. So you have to love that, seeing this in the second week of free agency. And I think when you're talking about him getting back to that 2023 form, there's a lot of great reasons to think he could do it, specifically because of the scheme like you're talking about. So why would the Raiders release a good center? The big part of this is they drafted their center of the future last year in Jackson Powers Johnson.
A guy we really wanted.
A guy who's going to be really good. But what that meant is they don't need to spend money on Andre James anymore when they have the future of that position still in the building, and especially coming off of a down season. So it made sense for them to release him. And he didn't play as well last year when it wasn't Josh McDaniels at the helm anymore. In that offense in 2023, it fit him. It was the best year of run blocking that he had by far. Yeah. He also was pretty good as a pass protector, as we said, a top 11 pass protector. You'll take that over what you had last year, because last year, Bradley Bozeman had a pass blocking grade that ranked him 42nd out of 50 centers. And I don't think it's all on Bradley Bozeman.
No.
There's only 32 starting centers in the league. So if you're ranking 42nd, it's not good enough. So this at least raises the floor on that. And there's reason to think this could be the latest in a long line of Joe Ortiz selections that can bounce back and find that form and be a real threat for this Chargers team.
I mean, he's really given a lot of different players an opportunity to try to rebuild their value. I mean, whether it's on the offensive line, the defensive line, the cornerback room with Christian Fulton, who just got rewarded with a new contract, right? There's plenty of examples where players, even recently with this new regime, have come to the Chargers, played with Jim Harbaugh, and was able to, rebuild their value and kind of, reestablish themselves as players in the NFL. And also, when you look at Andre James, I think recently he definitely fits the mold of what the Chargers are looking for, which is a durable, reliable type of player. I think for Andre James, he's only 27 years old, and he's played 15 or more games in 4 of the 6 seasons that he's played in the NFL. That's the type of player that, the Chargers want and covet. And so that's what you are trying to look for when you're looking for upgrading this team and looking for the type of players that fit with what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. So I love the move here. I think it really extends the offensive line here and makes it a lot more versatile and makes it a lot more competitive, which after the way last season ended, you had to add competition to that offensive line. There's no way it could be the same. The Chargers heard that message, and they are delivering on that now.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing here is I know a lot of people are going to be freaked out by last year's grades when you look this dude up, and I think there is obvious risk there. You don't know that you're going to get so much more out of him than they did last year. You don't know that for sure. What you think is that he's going to be a better fit, and you also know you have to do something at the center position, but I think the good news is like, this is at the very least competition for Bradley Bozeman, and he's likely going to end up being the starter. At least that's how things look right now. Maybe Bradley Bozeman looks so much better. You don't know. But even if that's the case, and Bradley Bozeman wins the starting job coming out of camp, you have a contingency plan now. Like last year, who were you going to turn to Brendan Hymas because things were bad with Bradley Bozeman?
They'd rather call a timeout than put Brendan Hymas on the field.
When now, like, you're going to, hopefully with Mekhi Becton, get a better evaluation of who the center is right now, and especially because there could be more to come. But, like, at the very least, this is competition, David, right? Worst case scenario, this is a great contingency plan to go to where if things aren't working out, you have a legitimate person you can plug in there.
After last season's performance, nobody on the interior should feel like, other than Mekhi Becton, who just signed that contract, should feel like they have a starting spot sewn up.
Yeah.
There's just there's no way that you can go into this season and say, oh yeah, Zion Johnson's our left guard, Bradley Bozeman's our center. It's all good. Everything's great. We added a right guard. Everything's fantastic. No. And the Chargers see that too. And that's why they bring in a player like an Andre James, who has played at a very high level in the NFL, to push a Bradley Bozeman or to supplant him, right?
Yeah.
You're not just going to give him the keys to the kingdom. You're going to make him have to earn those keys and really allow the best 5 offensive linemen to be out there opening up holes for Najee Harris and protecting the golden boy, Justin Herbert.
And I just think also, too, it's just more believable, I guess, to a certain extent that you could see Andre James get back to a level that we saw pretty recently and end up potentially giving you an above average option at center, because it's all about improving that line. It doesn't even mean they're done. As we learned yesterday, we didn't think they were going to be signing a center today. We thought it'd be more likely it was a guard. We said, hey, we'd rather have Andre James than Garrett Bradbury, but we weren't actually sure they were going to do it. They are doing it, and they're not doing it in the conventional sense where it doesn't feel like either him or Mekhi Becton is going to be a disaster for you, and you're not mortgaging the future to do it. And I do think that at the very least, if these guys are playing well, right, or you have these guys in a true competition, even if it's him and Bradley Bozeman, even if you throw Zion Johnson in there, that whoever comes out of that is going to give you a much better option than what you had in 2024. And I think that is a huge win for the Chargers, especially at this point in free agency.
Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, you will have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. And you can create cost-effective growth for your company. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps you find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com, UPWORK.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today.
Has the New York Giants veteran quarterback saga potentially taken a step closer to being resolved?
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast.
Starting with the quarterback. Are you guys as tired of this story as I am? Because, already make a decision, sign somebody, and let's get on with it. But here's the latest. Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network reported very early on Wednesday morning that the Minnesota Vikings are intending to move forward with J.J. McCarthy, that they had actually gotten some phone calls about trading him, which they're not going to do. And for right now, for right now at any rate, they are not interested in bringing in Aaron Rodgers, that they're going to look to bring in a potential different backup. Now, I want to stop right there because I just want to focus on the right now verbiage that was in that report. Right now means as of that moment when the news was relayed to Pelissero. Okay, so here's the thing. J.J. McCarthy, as everybody knows, is recovering from knee surgery that cost him his rookie season. It is March 19th, again, as I record this. The season doesn't start until September, and while there is reason to believe that J.J. McCarthy will make a full and complete recovery, you never know if there's going to be a setback. Setbacks do happen with different types of injuries. We saw Deshaun Watson in Cleveland had a setback after, there was optimism he might be ready for 2025. Now it looks like he won't be. So the for now qualifier, I think you had to include that. And I found that interesting because, again, things could change. But as of right now, it looks like, if this thing were to come to a head, Minnesota is out on Aaron Rodgers. That would leave Pittsburgh and the Giants as his two remaining options, or he could decide to retire. Okay, so that being said, let's talk quickly about Cleveland and how they factor into this. So Cleveland is actually in competition, if you will, for Russell Wilson, who is also on the Giants list of potential backup quarterbacks. I personally think, the impression I get is that Russell Wilson might be a little bit more ahead of Aaron Rodgers than I think initially thought. And I'm just wondering if that's the case because, look, you see what's going on with Rodgers, how he's taking his time, how he's operating on his time. There have been reports that he may drag this out until the week of the draft, which, it's just, who needs that? I mean, I think I mentioned it earlier on an earlier show this week. The off-season program is starting next month. And while it is a voluntary program, wouldn't you want to have your veteran quarterback come in and be settled so that he could start watching film with his receivers and start getting to know guys and all that stuff? I mean, again, I know it's voluntary, but it's such a big period to build camaraderie. And with Rodgers continuing to drag his feet, I mean, look, the Vikings aren't interested in you as of right now. So either commit to the Steelers, commit to the Giants, commit to retiring, and be done with it. Why does this have to continue to drag? I mean, are you hoping, like I said, that maybe, the Vikings will change their mind and come back and say, oh, J.J. McCarthy's recovery just not quite where we want it to be, and we better have somebody on board. But even if that's the case, ultimately, the Vikings are going to want to commit or are planning to commit to J.J. McCarthy when he is fully healthy. So a veteran quarterback going there is probably going to play at best for a handful of games until McCarthy's ready. So, I mean, does Rodgers really want that? Who knows? I've given up trying to figure out what he wants or how he's thinking, which is I'm sure how he prefers it to be. But all I know from a Giants perspective, just get a quarterback in here. Work it out with Russell Wilson. There was a report last year when Russell Wilson made a stopover with the Giants that there was great interest that he wanted to join the Giants, but he also wanted a chance to compete for a job. Well, now that job is available. So I got to wonder what the holdup is with Russell Wilson. Is it the Giants are just waiting for Aaron Rodgers? Is money involved? I mean, is it a combination of all of the above? I don't know the answer to that. But, I got to think if you're the Giants, I mean, how much longer can you wait? And I know there was a report Mike Garafolo said on I think it was Good Morning Football on the NFL Network. He said that the Giants are willing to be patient with Aaron Rodgers. Just at some point, you got to do what's best for you and stop catering to these other guys. And like I said yesterday, this is so out of character for Joe Shane. It's like you're running a business. So either tell somebody, look, I need an answer by such, this date, or I'm moving on. I mean, you start letting guys hold you up like this. What does that say about you? That just gives off the impression that you're desperate. And, maybe the Giants are. I wouldn't blame them if they are, but, do you have to put that on display if that's the case? So anyway, that's the latest on the quarterback situation. I mentioned Cleveland has an interest in Carson Wentz, which could potentially edge Russell Wilson back to the Giants. Maybe that's what they're waiting on. Maybe they're waiting for that door to close. Although, could Pittsburgh be in the picture for Russell Wilson? I don't think he could close the door there, but you never know. That's why things change so quickly, and you got to stay on top of all this stuff. But that's the latest thoughts that I have on the situation and how this has evolved. And I'm sure we'll talk about it again until this is resolved one way or another for the Giants.